Hello, gunfighters. Today we're going to talk about your carry, referencing a Patreon poll. Your carry, what you're carrying, perhaps why you're carrying it that way, and if you can improve your daily carry. With that, saddle up for gunfighter life, where we talk about guns, gunfighting tactics, ballistics, the right way, with God Almighty at the center, Judeo-Christian values, and real-world first-hand experience. Let he who has no sword sell his cloak and buy one. That's from the Gospel of Luke, and that's Jesus. So what are you carrying? Obviously, we have more modern weapons that we carry today than swords. Generally, a handgun. Let's start off with a deep philosophical discussion on why we carry a handgun. Well, because bad things happen in the world. Almost anywhere you live, I don't care how safe you think you are, bad things happen that are beyond our control. That is why we carry handguns. Well, why handguns specifically? Not because they're great. Not because they're great tools. And I love handgun shooting. I'll put a link to the bio in the show notes, but I am a many times over champion competition handgun shooter. I practice more with the handgun and compete more with the handgun than anything else. Not to mention my professional life, I carry a handgun all the time. And in my personal life, I carry a handgun all the time. But that's not because they're great weapons. It's not. It's because that is what's convenient to have on me. It's what I can have on me in my day-to-day life. It's convenient. I can be doing other things. I can be in the city doing stuff. I can be out in the country foraging or hunting or fishing. As I hope to be doing all three of those today. I'm actually beside you right now on a beautiful, clear, peaceful creek coming at you because it's hot today and I don't have air conditioning in the truck or at home. So I figured on a nice hot day like today, why not get out with the pups and go to a nice, beautiful creek, maybe do some hunting, some fishing, and just talk to you guys. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. I'd encourage you guys to get out there and be in nature. A little bit of a sidetrack, though. Why handguns? Because they're convenient. I can have a handgun on my hip and do many other tasks. Not everything, right? I think you can go too far on anything. Like, what's my favorite handgun for cliff jumping? Or what's my favorite handgun for diving? My answer is none. None handguns for that. But in most things, I carry a handgun. But they are not better than a rifle. They're not better than a shotgun for almost anything. There are maybe very mission-specific things where I would choose a handgun. But if you told me I was going to get into a gunfight today, I might debate between the shotgun versus the rifle. That's a real debate depending on what I would think the circumstances would be. But I wouldn't pick a handgun. Handgun's a backup if you can have a long gun. But we can't generally, day-to-day, do most of the other things we do with a long gun. So our everyday carry generally is a handgun. So in the poll, what are you guys carrying? A sizable minority said a full-size fighting handgun. If this is your first rodeo here, you may not know, but if you've listened for years, you know that I have preached for years on carry a full-size fighting handgun. Again, because handguns are limited. They are not super effective as far as terminal performance go, as far as shootability goes. They are a hard gun to master, a hard gun to shoot well. That is one of the reasons I love them so much, is because they require constant dedication and practice. Case in point, I could take a 12-year-old girl who's never shot a gun before in her life, and in a few hours, I can have her routinely hitting targets out to 300 meters with a rifle. Okay? Most grown men that carry and have had some kind of training have a hard time hitting a silhouette target at 25 yards with a handgun. Why? Because they're harder guns to master, they're harder guns to train, they're less effective. The smaller you go in handguns, unless you just do something crazy, in general, all of the things being equal, like caliber and, reliability, the smaller you get in handguns, the less effective they are. So you're taking something that's less effective anyway and making it significantly more so. So I am happy that there is a sizable minority that carry full-size fighting handguns. They are so much more shootable. I challenge you to go shoot the F.B.I. qual or the ICE qual or an El Presidente, a bill drill, any of those kind of core fundamental drills. Go shoot those with a full-size fighting handgun and go shoot them with a micro subcompact to make the point. And the more you get on that scale, the worse that gets. You may have to make some kind of compromise, but make the least compromise that you have to. Somebody recently asked me, I think it was one of the patrons, and it was, what about a Glock 19? A Glock 19 is a compact handgun and is not a full-size handgun. It is by definition, by Glock's own definition, and kind of by the industry standard definition, it is a compact gun. It is a compact. The full size is the Glock 17. Kind of the plus size, if you want even more shootability, would be the Glock 17L or the Glock 34. If you're going to stoop low enough to carry a Glock, at least carry one that's shootable. Glock 19s are okay. They're a good compromise. It's kind of why they're the standard, but they are a compromise of a compromise. So I would encourage you to carry a full-size fighting handgun. And not so much for the capacity. A lot of people, capacity, they nerd out on capacity. Getting a first solid hit quickly, first, second, third round hits quickly on target are exponentially. That skill is exponentially more important than 17 rounds in your magazine or 18 rounds. Not to say that you can't carry that. The gun on my hip right now is a 17+1. But that's because it's easy to shoot and it's good. It's easy to get fast first, second, third round hits. Not because it has 17 rounds. To make the point, if you said you could carry a Glock 17 with 12 rounds, it holds more than that. It holds 17+1. But if you said you could carry a Glock 17 with, 12 rounds, or a Glock, I don't know, what is it, the 43X now they make with 15-round magazines? I would take the 17 because it's a full-size handgun. I don't care if it has less rounds. It's going to be way more effective to get fast first, second, third round hits on target. And that's exponentially more likely to be the fight winner for you than the 17th round in your magazine. You know, the more you go down in those rounds, the less likely they are to make a difference. You look at any stats you want to on that, look up your own things. And I'm not for limiting magazine capacity. I'm saying that's not the major factor of why you carry a full-size fighting handgun. It's because it's so much easier to get first, second, third round hits on target. It's easier to get a full grip on the gun for most men, meaning it's easier to shoot. It's easier to change magazines without having to manipulate stuff. If you have a malfunction, it's easier to clear. There are many reasons, but the primary being that it is easier to get fast first, second, and third round hits. A side benefit is that they hold more rounds generally. Another benefit, in general, they're going to have longer barrels. You know, I'm talking about right around a 5-inch barrel, something longer than 4.5, a 4.7, a 4 point whatever. A 5-inch barrel is a proper fighting handgun. But like a 4.7, a 4.9, a 5-inch, you're going to get better ballistics, even though you're shooting the exact same round. You're going to get better ballistics, more velocity, more chance, and if all other things being equal, that gun's going to cycle when it's dirty, when it's bloody, whatever, better with a full-size fighting handgun than you are with a compact. And when you start getting, when you start chopping down that barrel even more, it becomes more pronounced, the ballistics that you lose. Even though both guns may be shooting a 9mm, even maybe the same round, the same defensive round, one is going to be more effective because it's out of a longer barrel. That just is. And there are short barreled loads, but realize that's a workaround. That's to get a round that will perform okay out of a baby barrel. Not saying that that's as good as a good defensive round that have a good full-size fighting handgun barrel. So a sizable minority of you guys are carrying a full-size fighting handgun, and I applaud you for that. We can nerd out on which system and which one is better on different episodes that we've talked about ad nausea, but good on you for carrying a full-size fighting handgun, and if you're not, consider doing so. The next one is you carry something else regularly. There is a time when it's better to carry a gun than no gun, right? A gun is better than no gun. I rarely anymore, but sometimes will carry a J-frame in the pocket, a .357 Magnum 5-shot J-frame. It's nowhere near as good and nowhere near as effective. I don't care how much you think that it is. It's not as effective as a full-size modern semi-automatic handgun. It's just not. And I recently did an episode where I did real-world numbers and real-world comparison on practical defensive drills on even a full-size revolver versus modern semi-autos. And it's not close. It's not. They're not the same. If you carry a revolver for whatever reason, a fashion statement, a nostalgia, throwback to the past, because somebody told you that they don't malfunction, they absolutely do malfunction. But for whatever reason, just realize that they are not as effective. If you are making an informed decision based on you, and that's what you can have and what you can carry, like a situation where you're carrying in the pocket, you're not wearing a shirt, and it's, that gun or no gun, a small J-frame in the pocket, that's better than no gun. But realize that you are limiting yourself. So I would say only do that if you have to, if your choice is no gun or that gun. And sometimes we have to make those choices. The other category was you carry something but not regularly. Now, sometimes you just can't, or sometimes it doesn't actually make tactical sense. I talked about, cliff jumping. It was something that I enjoy. The odds of me needing a gun when I'm cliff jumping are less than the odds that I might land on something bad and drown, and it's going to be harder to swim with a gun on. So in that situation, it literally might decrease my survival to have a gun. And I know that makes a bunch of gun people mad, but that's just reality. Being a good swimmer, if I get sucked into some kind of eddy or I land on a rock and break my leg and I didn't know there was a rock there, that gun is going to be more of a hindrance than a help. Hopefully there's another armed man around that can watch my back while I'm jumping, and vice versa. Generally, I'll carry the gun and have somebody watch it while I jump, and then vice versa. But you get the idea. There are real-world situations where having a gun can decrease your odds of survival. That's a good reason to not carry a gun. Another real one, a sad one, is suicide. I'm not saying that somebody should go take their guns away, but let's use veterans for an example. Sadly, a lot of veterans, myself being one, there's a lot of veterans out there. And a lot of veterans wrestle with suicide. If there is a veteran out there wrestling with suicide, maybe carrying a gun on your hip is not the best course of action for you if that's going to decrease your chances of survival. Again, I'm not for legislation taking them guns away from veterans or anything like that, but what I'm saying is you as a grown man ought to realize that if you're wrestling with those demons, that maybe it's better for you to not have a gun for a short time until you get your head right. And then it may not be a popular opinion, but I'm just being honest. I don't want veterans to commit suicide or anybody to commit suicide. It's an egregious wrong. But that's an example. So that may be a good example of why you don't carry regularly. I will give you an example of a bad reason you don't carry regularly. You don't think you're going somewhere where you're going to need a gun. Well, then you had better not go home, because people get assaulted in their home all the time, and you may not have a chance to run up to your bedroom and get in the gun safe with your combination. You just realize the battery's dead or whatever. So you better not go home. You had better not go to church, because people sadly get assaulted and shot at churches. You had better not go to a gas station, because people get assaulted and robbed at gas stations and killed at gas stations pretty regularly. You had better not go to a store. You had better not go to walk your dog, etc., right? There are so many examples. Again, in the world that we live in, I don't think there's many places you can go where you don't have the odds of being killed by somebody violently. And that's sad, and the odds may be small, but they are there. So if your reasoning is, I'm not going somewhere where I think I might need a gun, I would say that is a poor reason to not carry. Because again, don't go to church, don't go home, don't go to the store, don't go to the gas station, don't walk your dog. Because people get killed doing those things all the time. Hiking, whatever it is, right? on the side of the highway. Right? Don't drive, because you might end up on the side of the road, and people get killed on the side of the road all the time. Right? There's really no, that I don't think that's a valid reason, because I'm not going somewhere where I think I'm going to need a gun. I don't think I'm going to get into a car accident today, but I'm probably going to wear my seatbelt. I don't think that, I'm going to get in a car accident today, but I still have car insurance, mostly because they make me. But anyway, maybe that's a bad example. I don't think my house is going to burn down today, but I have a fire extinguisher. Right? That's not a good reason to not carry a gun, because you don't think you're going to go somewhere where you might need a gun. I don't carry at all was another category, and there's a few valid reasons for this. One, you're not old enough to be responsible enough to do it. I'm not talking about law-wise. I'm talking about you're just not that mature yet. Two, you don't know the basics of gun safety. That would be a decent one. Like you're more dangerous than if you were you're more dangerous if you're armed, just because you don't know yet. You're ignorant, not in a bad way. You just haven't been educated on it. Maybe another one is you're French or Canadian. You guys, I would say move, but if you can't move, or you're just willing to walk around hamstrung all the time and not armed, then, that is what it is. But that might be another reason. Maybe you can find a workaround on that. Maybe you can carry a gun in your truck, in your vehicle, whatever. I would still, even if you EDC a handgun, I would still tell you to have truck guns. I've done a whole series on truck guns, if you're a recent listener. But I've done 2 complete series on truck guns. But maybe that's a workaround. So sadly, there are governments that restrict your ability to defend yourself. But, that is what it is. But those are some of my thoughts on concealed carry. I did that poll to get, my pulse on the audience. And this is, I assume if you're listening to Gunfighter Life, you're a pretty avid listener, pretty avid shooter and things like that. And even that, a lot of people are not day-to-day carrying a full-size fighting handgun. So I would encourage you to be circumspect. I don't know what's best for you, but do it based on, prayer. Number one, you don't know anything apart from God, so ask Him for wisdom and guidance in your life. He knows a lot more than I do, for sure. I don't know you. He does. And He knows more than we do. So, number one, I would say pray. Number two, I would say look at it circumspectly, not emotionally, and see what's best for you in your life. And make good, informed decisions. Thanks for listening, guys. I'll close out with the verse I said in the opening. Let he who has no sword sell his cloak and buy one. Have a blessed day.